Hi friends, welcome back to Liferay workshop. So in this part of the tutorial I will demonstrate how to do interportlet communication using RenderParameter. So to demonstrate this we will need basically two portlets. One will be the sender portlet, another will be the receiver portlet. So I've already created two different portlets. Here is my IPC render parameter receiver portlet, and here is my IPC render parameter sender portlet. Just to reiterate, to create any portlet you have to do right click, new, Liferay module project, the project's name, which is here IPC render parameter sender portlet, the same thing, and then next and finish. So this way you can create both of these portlets. So since I have already created, I am not going to create it again. So to start with, I will be first creating the code for sender parameter portlet. So to start with, I will be creating the code for IPC render parameter sender portlet. Here, first I will be going to the JSP. View.jsp. So let's start writing the code for this. So first I add the related imports which I will need for this portlet. I create a AUI form along with the action URL which I will need for this. Default portlet definition object and Liferay theme defined objects. Then I am creating the action URL through which it will be submitting the form and going to the send IPC data through RenderParameter method of the action class. Then I am creating an input box, AUI input box with the name user email address. Just putting a validator that this is a required one. You cannot leave it blank. And since this is an email address, I am putting a validator for email. Then I just add a submit button, and the name of the submit button will be send IPC call. Just formatting it. Let's save it. Then I go back to the action class, which will be here. If you have not created it, you can create a simple action class here, which should extend the MVC portlet. Let's start writing the code for this. So since we are using OSGI in Liferay 7, we need to register everything using component, this particular class using component annotation, and these are the default properties which should be there in any of the portlet which you are creating. So every property is for some default purpose, but these are the general properties which we should use for almost all the new portlets. Now this is one of the important things, since here we are using render parameter based interportlet communication. So we have to use this property support public render parameter for the property on which we want to do the interportlet communication. So how to decide that which property basically we have to write here? To decide this, basically you have to refer the Liferay 7 documentation. So if you remember, in previous versions of Liferay, we were using portlet.xml, wherein we were using different XML descriptors for different type of values. So here you can find all the OSGI portlet service property mappings for the corresponding XPaths. So in this case, since we need an alternative for supported public render parameter tag, so it is here. So this is what I have used in my portlet here. So let's move ahead. I'll just write the method name which will be called after submit, a simple SOP, getting the user email address from the request, an SOP again, then setting the user email address in the render parameter of the response. Just formatted the code. So this is what we have to write for the sender portlet. So let's move ahead with the receiving portlet. So let's write down the code for the receiver portlet. Let's go to the corresponding portlet class. If it is not created by default, just create a class and extend MVC portlet. Just write down the add component annotation to register it with the OSGI container along with the default properties needed for a portlet class. Also, you will need the same public render parameter property like you have used for the sender portlet to allow the public rendering of this particular parameter. So you are done with the class. Let's save it. Let's go to the view.jsp of the receiver portlet. Let's import the APIs, and here you can see, since user email address is public render parameter, we can get it through parameter.getString and request, render request. So I'm just using the email address to get the corresponding user object from user local service util. So I will now create a table to display all the properties of that particular user. So I'm just displaying the user ID. Now also the full name, birthday, job title, and the screen name. Just in case there is nothing, I am adding a message. So now we are done with the sender and receiver portlets using IPC render parameter. Let's deploy both these portlets. So once the portlets are deployed, go to your browser, just refresh it. Go to add. And you can see render parameter receiver portlet and render parameter sender portlet both appears here. Add both of these portlets onto the page. Just input the some email ID, some valid email ID, and send the IPC call to the receiver portal. And you can see since the requests are submitted successfully, the corresponding user details appear on the receiver portal. So that is the way how we can achieve inter-portlet communication using render parameter in Liferay 7. Thank you so much. Let's meet into the next tutorial.